And we're live. Welcome back to another Corona Geek, here where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we're going to talk about Windows Phone 8. Yay!
What again?
Where was the confetti and the fanfare and the?
Yeah, you should put it.
Okay, there we go. Good. Okay. We're also going to talk about dynamic masks, which is not a Halloween topic. We're also going to talk about reskinning games and animated score counters. We got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to jump right into it. So thanks for being here and joining us. So does anybody on the panel, before we get started, does anybody on the panel have any announcements they want to make? I know that there was a few of you who had some things to say.
Got two.
I got a quick announcement. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I've got two real quick ones. First of all the Corona books on my website have had a minor update, just fixing a error that sneaked through on the coding. So if you want to get that, the update's out there. It's free. Also, I've had a request from several people wanting to donate. Thank you very much for all the updates that you continue to receive for free. I guess they felt guilty for continuing to get free copies. So please feel free to donate. There's now a donate pay button on the update page. So be happy to accept any donations for keeping the books up to date. Second announcement, some of us are starting to do some research in multiplayer type games. Good example of that would be Clash of Clans. It's #1 for revenue currently for multiplayer games on the app stores, making a measly $1.3 million a day. So some of us are starting to research that. You know, if you want to make a good game, look at what's already out there, see how they're doing it. Not necessarily copy it. Please edit that out later.
You didn't hear that. Go on.
Wow. Okay, my face is red. We're wanting to see how they've done it and been so successful. So I started a Clash of Clans clan called Corona Geek, no space. If you'd like to join and research, it's purely a research thing. We're not going out there. We may fight in some of the clan wars or something just for experimentation. But it's just a friendly guild to help each other learn about developing for multiplayer games and, you know, make our own millions of dollars per day.
Yeah, I think we definitely should do a whole session on one of these shows where we just kind of break down all the different pieces of what Clash of Clans is doing, just because
definitely.
I've been playing it, and it's amazing. Well, we won't get into it, but it's amazing, and I think that there's a lot of dynamics there that could be borrowed.
Yes.
But be careful. Once I started playing Clash of Clans, next thing I know, I was playing it for a year.
Yes,
you're right.
I've been playing it about a year and a half now, and Chris has already joined the guild or the clan, so we're set up. We are going forward. I'll automatically make anybody who joins an elder so that we can all participate. Any jerks we'll throw out. Be nice. We're helping each other, not.
Oh man, I'm out of there.
Yeah, Ed. Sorry.
So excellent. On the books, burtonsmediagroup.com.
Yes.
Is that the best place?
burtonsmediagroup.com, and then go to the book update, and you'll see all the newest versions for beginning mobile application with Corona or learning mobile application with Corona. Both are being picked up by high schools and colleges and universities all around the world. So if you know any faculty that's looking to teach mobile app development, please share the book with them. Let them know that a lot of them are looking for good, pedagogically sound educational materials, and there's not a lot out there. I like to think that this is one that is good for use in the classroom. I've been using it for a number of years now in the classroom, and continuing to update the book so the students get a value, the professor gets a value, everybody wins. It's a win-win.
I would imagine if you write the book and use the book, you know where the gaps are.
Yeah.
So you can fill those in and refine it.
And I do provide all kinds of support especially for professors and teachers as they're getting started with it. I'm happy to help get you going. Next week, I'm going to be presenting at the American Association of Computer Education Conference in New Orleans on mobile application development and the fact that I've been teaching it now for 5 years, and which makes me one of the old people in teaching mobile application development. It's 5 years is forever in this industry. So.
That's right. Yeah. It's hard to believe that it's only been a handful of years.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Well, awesome. Ed, what did you have?
Just a quick announcement for the company that I've been working with. I've been working with a company on a business app for a few months now, a couple months, and they released the 1.0 version. And when I say 1.0, what I mean is the 1.0 version that I produced. They actually had a 1.0 version written by somebody else, not written with Corona. And I don't know all the details, but I do know that it didn't go well, and they decided to switch over to Corona. And they've been happy ever since, and so it's a success story for them and for Corona. And the name of the app is called MenuMe, and basically what it is it's an application for checking out what restaurants have and examining the different plates and the locations and stuff like that. And I'm showing it here on my screen. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep, we see it.
So it was an interesting app to develop, and I won't go into details. Actually, I'm going to write a post later this week once I get together with the company to sort of phrase it the way they want me to. Looking to get some people to try this out and give me some feedback because we're still in development. There's many more features we want to put in, and we've done some experimental stuff here with the interfaces, and maybe we'll tune it up a little bit and whatnot, and I figured getting the feedback from the Corona community would be a good way to do that. So this is available for iOS and for Android. I'm showing it on my iPad right now.
Yeah, it's very okay. It's very clean looking. I like the design.
I appreciate that. The design I can't take credit for so much as the mechanics.
Well, it looks
well,
good.
I want to give credit where credit is due. I mean, the primary guy at the company who I've been working with put a lot of thought into how he wanted the interfaces to feel and look, and then we experimented with several designs, which is good because Corona allowed us to do it pretty rapidly. And this is the one that we settled on.
Very nice. I like it. Well, I've downloaded it, and I will be testing it out and giving you feedback.
All righty then.
All right. Good deal. Well, do they have any plans to put it on Windows?
I bet they would if there was a relatively easy. I know that's leading in, isn't it?
So so we're getting close to putting out support for Windows Phone 8. Essentially, we're down to the documentation and the marketing material. So we can expect to see it coming very soon, hopefully this week. And so today I thought we would walk through looking at Windows Phone 8 on and what it takes to get it installed and what it takes to set up a project and stuff like that. And we're going to do it really quickly. We're going to breeze through it because we've got some stuff that Sergey wants to go through as well. And then, of course, like we said, we have a couple other topics beyond that. So,
I'm not ready.
What's that?
I'm not ready yet. Give me a few minutes.
Oh yeah, you got plenty of time. So I'm going to switch screens over here because I've got a setup here on my MacBook Air that I think that everybody will be interested in. So let me just hit this. Let me move that and hit share. All right. Can you see my desktop there?
Yes.
I have Yosemite up. So I'm running all this on my MacBook Air, which I said. But I want to emphasize that because what I've got is I've got the oh, no, let me do that. Hold on, let me do that. Give it to me. Give me. I got the Yosemite. You know how to, who here has installed Yosemite yet?
I did it yesterday.
You know when you do the expand the window thing?
Yeah, it goes full screen.
Yeah.
You need to drag it manually. I suppose.
Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just leave it up there then. Okay, the screen that I'm looking at over here is maximized to the point where I can't see my handles anymore, but that's okay. So anyway, so what I've got is VMware 7 running on the MacBook Air I'm running Yosemite. I was running it. I was running, the last version of OS X before. So when I updated to Yosemite, nothing really changed for me. But I've got VMware 7, and then I've got Windows 10 Technical Preview, which I just went and downloaded from from Microsoft for free, just to do the technical review. And then I installed Visual Studio. So I'm booting it all up here. And then from there, I was able to install and build a Corona project. So I'll just show you that here. So basically, everything. What I'm getting at is that everything is running all on the MacBook Air, and this Google Hangout is actually running on the MacBook Air. So I've got 8 gig of RAM, and it still runs fairly smooth. So basically, I didn't want to go out and buy a whole new Windows machine, to be able to develop for Windows. So I just installed this virtual environment, and when I'm not running the Hangout, it actually runs a little faster than this. So let me just.
And you said this is Windows 10?
Yeah. So this is Windows 10 Technical Preview, and it was super simple to get set up. I mean, VMware stuff asked me for an ISO file, and I went to Microsoft and downloaded the ISO file, and then just pointed VMware to it, and then it installed the Technical Preview, and then from there I went and got Visual Studio Express 2013, and then installed that, and then from there I was pretty much done. So here I've got just.
So you're using all free software to do this?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at this point, I'm
going to emphasize that this isn't costing anything at this point.
At this point, if you want to try it out, you can do it.
Except the developer license.
Right.
Right. Yeah. You need a pro or enterprise.
Corona developer.
Corona developer license
to have the cloud or the CoronaCards.
Right. So that's a good point. Let's point that out. So basically, the way the Windows Phone stuff was implemented, it works with CoronaCards, and so the normal environment that you're accustomed to, having just starting up the simulator and then just opening up your project and then doing a build for and then building for iOS or Android or whatever, the workflow is a little different with Windows Phone. You're not in that same environment. You can be, which Brian, you can talk more about that in a minute. But when you want to go and build for your device or build for the emulator or whatever, you're going to have to bring it into a Visual Studio project. And so let's just see here. I can't remember if I have this installed or not. I don't think I do. So I have Visual Studio open here, and right now I'm looking at all the extensions that are available for Visual Studio, and CoronaCards is not installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to install it, and then I'll walk you through creating a project and looking at that project in the emulator and then on the device. So what happens is you go and download, when everything finally gets announced, you'll go to CoronaCards.com and you'll download the trial of CoronaCards. And then what that'll do is it'll give you this file here, which is the installer. And what you'll do is once you have it on your Windows machine, you'll need, of course, Visual Studio installed. You'll double-click on it, and this VSIX file, which is basically the installer file, it'll pop up and want you to install. And so you go through the normal installation process of accepting the security notifications and all that kind of stuff. And then you tell it what version of Visual Studio you want to install for. So here we're doing Visual Studio Express 2013, which, like you said, is a free download. It's a free piece of software. So we just hit install, and then you're done. So now it's installed for Visual Studio. So what we want to do now is just go in and boot up Visual Studio like we did before. And from there we can create a project that we can then run either in the emulator or on the device. So, and again, remember, this is all running on my MacBook Air. I've got 8 gig of RAM, but I don't have, I'm not running a quad core, blah, 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 right? I mean, MacBook Air is pretty good, but it's definitely not a robust machine, and so this is all running, I would say, fairly smoothly. So then we've got Visual Studio installed. So if we go to Tools and look at extensions, what we can see is that there are two files here. They're showing up, and if you click on either one of them, you can see what version of CoronaCards you have installed. So up here we've got, I'm operating with I think either the latest or the next to latest version. Actually, no, I take that back. I think there's a newer version, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So what we do is when we want to create a Corona project, we're just going to go in and go File, New Project, as you might expect, and then on the left-hand side, you have a variety of different project types that you can open up. Because these are almost like, I mean, imagine if you were to open up Xcode and you were going to start a project, and you were going to start either like a single project or a library, or just whatever the different project types are. So what we're going to do is make sure that we're going into the installed Visual C#, and then there's a Corona option in here. So so you can do that. So if you wanted to do a mixed project where you had like Visual .NET code in there, you could. And if you wanted to also maybe use some VB.NET code, then you have a different Corona option over there. So just for the example here, we're going to do Visual C#. We'll select Corona, and then we want to name our project, set its location, and give the solution itself a project, because you can have, if I remember correctly, I think in Visual Studio you can have multiple things within a solution. So I'll just accept the defaults and then click OK. And what it's going to do now is it's basically going to set everything up for it. It's setting up a project in Visual Studio that's going to also include CoronaCards in it, so that we can write our Corona code. So on the right-hand side, we've got our project, and then within our assets folder, we've got a Corona folder, and then within that we have our config.lua, our main.lua, and a hello world.jpg. So we've got basically just a very basic hello world application. So from there, if we wanted to, we can just go to up here to the top in the toolbar, and we can choose either ARM or x86. So if we wanted to build for the emulator, which is what we'll do first, we can just choose x86, which is going to be using our, basically using our, our processor on our desktop, and then we can just choose emulator, which I didn't show it, but there are a variety of emulators that you can choose from. So you can set different resource sizes. So right now we're using the 512 megabyte emulator. Now the one thing that I did run into, because I'm running, this is VMware running Windows. I did run into an issue where in the VMware settings, I had to make sure that the HyperV support was turned on, so that the emulator would come up and run properly. And but that was just a kind of an environment setting, and I will probably write up something about that and publish it on the Corona
definitely
site.
do, because that's a little confusing when you first run it on your Mac or your PC, for that matter, in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
That can be a little confusing, and I think most people, at least a large percentage of the people out there, will be running this in a virtual environment, because let's face it, Windows 8 hasn't been very popular.
Well, yeah, it depends on what your environment already is, and maybe you have an older machine, and I don't know. So there might be different conditions. So, this is to say that this is a Windows Phone 8 project, so you're going to need the latest operating system in order to do this. So you can't do this on Windows 7 or something. So. So anyway, so this is coming up in the emulator, and again, just as a reminder, I'm running this on a MacBook Air, with Google Hangout in virtualization, so everything
and recording at the same time.
And recording at the same time. So I'm exactly. I'm doing a lot of.
Only 8 gigs of RAM. So.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, actually, even that is split. Of course, between
the OS and the virtual environment.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think on this, I only set Windows to have like 2 gig or something like that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's already kind of throttled.
I don't get that good a performance with my 16 gigs of RAM and evenly splitting the processor.
Right.
So
yeah,
you're getting great.
So it's all doing pretty well. I'm looking at it now. And I'm like, yeah, this is definitely going slower than when I'm just sitting here by myself. So what I did was I wanted to, we were going to launch everything, and we needed videos and everything like that for training purposes and stuff. So I needed to put something this together. So I went through and figured out how to put all this together so that it would work. So okay, so your Hello World application comes up, and then what you'll see over here on the right-hand side is like these little numbers or whatever. And again, that's kind of a virtualization issue. So like it's not going to look like that on your final build. So right now we're in the emulator. So if I wanted to, I could actually go into Visual Studio and I could stop the build, which doesn't kill the emulator. So here's the emulator. I still got that up, and I can actually go and let me grab this and go here. And just slide over here to the right, and so there's our CoronaCards app listed in the menu. So if I bring it back up, then we have the Hello World. We don't have all the numbers and stuff, because now it's running. It's basically running in the emulator, and it's not having to whatever Visual Studio does to communicate to the emulator is not there anymore. Okay, so that's that. Anybody got any questions about that so far?
No, this works smoothly, and I've had a chance to play with CoronaCards a little bit and start porting projects over. There are some design issues that you've got to massage, and Charles and I were talking about this earlier. There is a workflow that seems to work well for me. When I'm designing a project, I'm still shooting first for the iOS market. That's the most profitable market to be developing in. And since I'm already there, I'm probably also going to port it over to Android, and then Windows is usually going to be my third development. But if you've got everything working, we're talking about maybe half a day getting all of this tweaked and on 3 different platforms.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, figure out what your target is. The one caveat I would say there is that CoronaCards does not implement all of the things that Corona SDK does. So what you wind up with is there are certain nuances, like on the Windows Phone 8, there's not support for the MP3s. So then you have to say, okay, well, am I going to use WAV files or am I going to use something else, right? So you kind of have to figure out what your common denominators are, I guess you could say,
right. And
then go back and when you start your project, say, okay, well, I'm gonna target iOS first, maybe, or Android first, or whatever. But I know that I'm gonna need these other things to be in place for the Windows Phone. So when I go to do that, I don't have to make any changes or whatever. And as long as you do that, you're fine. So then, like you're saying, you could develop the whole thing in Corona Simulator. And then when you're done, what you do is you actually go in and using OneDrive or Dropbox or whatever your preferred is, drag those project files. You drag all those right in here into this Corona folder, and then once
I've gone to the point that there is always a little bit of tweaking difference between different target development environments depending on the complexity of the project. The goal is, as little difference as possible, but oftentimes there's some minor tweaks to be done, and I'll go ahead and create a second folder for deploying to Windows 8, just to simplify matters a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and it's interesting to hear everybody's workflow. I don't think there's a I don't think there's going to be
right or wrong. It's just this is what I do. I go ahead and create a second folder for CoronaCards.
Yeah. I will say that one of the interesting things that I have found in this whole experience was that OneDrive is really fast. I was very, very surprised about how fast it is, and because it's integrated with the OS, the Windows OS, I can go over and I can open up the File Explorer, and there's OneDrive is already in there, and so it's almost just it's a seamless integration between file systems. So if I'm working on especially when I was working on the MacBook Air, doing something, and then I was like, okay, I'll put all the files, I'll upload them to OneDrive, and then boom, they showed up into my Windows environment, right? So
what's your storage on OneDrive? A long topic.
I think it's like 20 gig or something.
Oh, okay. Not bad.
Again, it's a free account. You set it up, and so
a lot to work with. So.
Yeah, I mean, and it works, like I said, really, really well. I was really, really very surprised, and pleasantly surprised. So okay. So the one thing that there's two things here that I want to cover before we stop, and is A, you might have noticed that there was a trial watermark on the app, and the reason for that, of course, is you can download the CoronaCards thing, and you can give it a try. But then when you want to go buy a license for that, then if you just wanted to buy just a license for that, or if you've already have Pro or Enterprise or whatever, then you'll have to go and get your license file, which is essentially it looks kind of like this. Let me just go into the docs. CoronaCards. This is where I just happen to have things put on my file system. So this license file is something that you would get from your profile area on Corona Labs. And then what you do is you just basically you take it and you drag it up into this Corona folder in the Visual Studio project. And then once that license file is there, oops, that's crazy. Once that license file is there, then the project will no longer show the watermark. It's a fully functioning, fully whatever you can publish to the App Store kind of thing.
And we should note that some people have already published to the Windows Store using CoronaCards.
Yeah, we talked about that the last couple shows. We talked about a couple of apps that were out there already, and people are publishing to the Windows Store now. Yeah, absolutely. So it's functional. It's ready to go. If you've been in the beta program, you've been taking advantage of that. So the only other thing here I guess we could show is that when you go to if you want to run it on the device itself, then all you have to do is up here on the toolbar hit ARM. And then it's going to show in your menu options. It's going to show device as one of those. So you just build for your device, which I have a Nokia phone hooked up to my computer right now, and so it's building for that. Well, with the one thing that you have to do is you have to open the phone, you have to turn the phone on, and you have to unlock it, which is the same kind of thing with Xcode. You have to make sure that the device is ready to go. So then start. So then you say, phone's open. Is it plugged in? Yes, it's plugged in. You hit device. Oh, well, I don't know why. I freaked it out. Let's go ARM. Debug.
It's not going to work for you, buddy.
It's not working. I don't know what. Yeah, well, it works. Anyway, it worked earlier.
So it's not going to work on the show.
Oh, here we go. Maybe it's not connected to my device. In my virtual environment, when you plug in the devices, it asks you which one you want to connect it to. So it's probably just not recognizing that there's a device connected at all. So let's do that one more time, just for funsies.
Charles, while that's publishing, you want to specify CoronaCards use, separate license, comes with Pro, comes with Enterprise. What's the rules?
I would say wait for all the official documentation to come out and stuff like that, but my understanding is that if you have Pro or Enterprise, that you're going to get access to this. Now that's, Charles could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
But the unofficial announcement.
The unofficial. Well, it makes sense, right? Because you're, it's the cross-platform thing, and that's what that's what we've kind of been saying all along. So let me see if I can remove my screen share now. All right, so I'm back. So now I've got it hooked up to this Nokia device, and the project's running on the device. So there you go. I think there's a few other little caveat things like every time you start a project, you need to make sure that your license file is in that project, because otherwise you'll get the trial watermark.
And that won't look good if you're publishing.
Yeah, but you'll know that right away when you're like, oh, I forgot to put my license file in there, whatever. So just because it's Visual Studio is separate within the simulator, in the simulator scenario, when you licensed it, it was licensed for everything, right? So that the Visual Studio, you just need to make sure that your license file is in there. And then there was one last thing I want to show before we're done. So let's say that you want to uninstall Visual Studio. I mean, uninstall Corona. Then what you would do is, like we said before, you'd go to Tools, Extensions and Updates, and in here you just have to, if you want to uninstall, you just have to click on both of these things. You click on this one first, which is the CoronaCards for Windows Phone, and you say yes. And then there's a second one, which is Corona Framework for Windows Phone. Click on that, and you say uninstall. You say yes. And then once that's done, it's basically Visual Studio needs to refresh itself. So after it's all done installing, down here they actually provide a Restart Now button, and then you just hit the Restart Now, and yeah, we'll go ahead and stop redebugging. And Visual Studio will just restart itself. It'll just come up. You'll shut it down and bring it all back up, and then once it's like that, you can go back to Tools and Extensions and Updates, and it's gone. So, that might be important for people who are, Visual Studio developers who wanted to try out CoronaCards, but now they want to install it, and they're like, well, whatever. So, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Whoa. Okay, let me find my. 2 different screens. Let me find my screen sharing now. And we will. Anybody got any other questions or comments about that?
Oh, just waiting for it.
You guys are waiting for it? It's pretty sweet. I signed up as a for developer on Windows, and it was like $20 to sign up. Provisioning the device to make sure that it was open for development was super simple. I mean, couldn't be easier. I mean, it's one of those like. I think Windows, the Microsoft's doing a good job in that respect.
And Microsoft is actively seeking developers. They realize for the devices to be successful, there needs to be apps out there. So they've got a lot of very friendly programs for developers to go ahead and migrate.
Yeah,
and they're only 5 to 7% of the market right now, but we are talking about Microsoft. They've got. They are the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We've now got 3 800-pound gorillas that we have.
You're right. Yeah, and to some degree, if you want to think about it, this is a good time to be developing for a Windows Phone because, as you say, they're not going to go away, right? They're not going to stop trying to dominate the market, just as any company would do. Try to be the dominant player.
Very popular with the enterprise crowd.
Very popular with the enterprise crowd, and because because of their market share, the store isn't as crowded, which means it'll be a good time to get in. So that's the to me that's the real big value piece right there.
When I was presenting, go ahead.
What device are you using?
I'm using a Nokia phone that was provided. To my wife for a promotional event, and I like it. I actually like it quite a bit. I mean, I was before iPhone 6 came out, I was looking at the screen size of it and the size of it still fits in your hand, kind of like an iPhone 5 does. Mm-hmm. And I was like, it's not a bad phone. I like it.
Okay.
So anyway, okay. Well, we don't want to run out of time. So, Sergey, you feel like you're ready to do some dynamic masks?
Yeah.
So exactly what is that before we get started?
Well, you know that we use containers for when we need to clip some group, some boundaries, right?
Okay.
And basically, I am making a container that works much better than the default one. Okay, now important part. Let me see. Tell me if right now the image is dark, and if now it's brighter.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, good. So let me say you something about containers. For example, we have this scene. I hope you can see it. This is a container with size of 200 by 100, and it contains background rectangle, which is not visible right here because it's covered with another image, world GPG, which is these clouds, and it has a label. Everything is centered around 0, 0 position, and it looks all nice and good. However, when if you need to use anchor points 0, 0, which means top left, with containers, you find yourself in a pretty hurtful situations like this. Now you can see the white background of the container. The center of the container is always 0, 0, and you can change this point to top left position or bottom right or whatever. It's always at the center. And it gives a lot of headache if you really rely on top left orientation of your content inside the container. The solution is to offset every object inside the container by the half width and half height of the container. So you have to add such lines for every object. It may work, it works, but it really near to impossible if you have dynamic containers or you have content that is dynamically added to the group, and it's all the calculations may be very hard to do, very hard to work on, especially if you have some line drawing inside the container. Math can be pretty difficult because of this adjustment of the containers, of the coordinates of every object. So this is hurtful. I don't like it. I have a clients applications which relies on top left orientation, and they had to clip the group. It wasn't a container, and when I tried to use container, it was impossible because it would require to rewrite a lot of the code already written. So it's a no-go. So instead, I thought about using standard masks, but masks are pretty complex and not really reliable because you have to create a lot of masks for different sizes. Like in examples, in Corona samples for masks, you have masks of different sizes and different shapes. What I'm going to use is this file. I hope you can see it, masks.png, and here it is. This is very tiny mask. If I zoom in my preview, like a lot, you can see it. It's 8 by 8 pixels only, so it's there's 3 pixels border for on all sides, and the center is 2 by 2 white rectangle. So that's it. That's our mask that we are going to use. That's basically the minimum what you can have in Corona for mask. So let's replace container with a group and see what happens. This is what happens, and now we are getting rid of these angry lines. We don't like them. We don't use them. Delete. Now you see what happens. Now we want this hello world to be clipped with the right side, and white background would not be visible. So let's apply mask. But okay, let's first load the mask and apply mask to our group. We see nothing. We see a little dot. But we can scale the mask. Let's scale it a little. By a little, I mean a lot. And now we see something really interesting, right? It looks like these 2 by 2 pixels were stretched really high, and you can see image can be visible, and the size is not what we need, but kinda what we need. So we need to actually reposition the center of the mask to right and down, so it can be. So what we need is under the mask. So let's position it. It just happens to be the same value as mask scale X because it's half of the container size, half width, half height, and we will see something like that. Well, much better. Now we have this is our zone that we want to display, but we want it to be sharp and nothing around to be visible. So we add this little trick, which is Mac textile filter, to set it nearest neighbor, and that disables any interpolations. Right now we can see it because of interpolations, and when we restart the simulator, boom, you have it, mask of any size. You can change these values to any value you want. For example, width and height to be 100 by 50. Boom, you have it. 300 by 500. Boom, you have it. Everything you need. Anything, any size. So it's pretty dynamic. Out of one image. So you don't need any other image. So if you remember, you would need to a lot of other masks for this to be done normally. And but it's not. That's not all. They're truly dynamic because you can transition them. Let's say we have our last height was 100 pixels, and let's make it 200 pixels. What we need is a transition on a group, and we would change these 2 values: mask scale Y, or sorry for my Russian, mask scale Y, mask Y. And it's important to know that these values must be halved. That's just how it works. Because that's because you can't apply anchor point for mask. If it was possible to write something like mask anchor x equals 0, you would not need to set half here, half there. So, but it's not possible, and we have to deal with it. But it's much easier because instead of having to apply half height, half width to every object inside a group, you just need to apply it to the mask itself only once, and it works. So right now, there's a delay 1 second for simulator to start up, and during 5 seconds it will transition the height to double it. Let's see. And boom, here it goes. So that's it. Dynamic masks out of one image. Works perfectly. Top left anchor point, any anchor point you want, and voila, enjoy.
Cool, thank you. I like the example at the end there. That was kind of gave a practical view of it. Ed, I see your eyebrows are like all.
Yes, I'm loving this. Although I do have a big question for you. Have you?
Okay.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah.
My question is, have you done any performance analysis of this?
The performance is the same because containers internally use masks.
What would you, Ed? What would you envision a scenario where you would have to, like, performance would be an issue? Well,
the folks I'm working with now, the application I just showed you,
yeah,
uses containers all over the place. But I kind of didn't. I like what he's got there, which is this dynamic masking, because it gives us access, especially that last little thing that he showed. which is sort of like the folding out interface. That's a nice little thing you can do there. I mean, gives it a pleasant look and feel, especially if you give it a nice tween.
I will prepare a code on my website, spiralcodestudio.com, and I will tweet it when the code is available. So stay tuned.
Very nice.
So, when did it occur to you to try out the minimized mask that you use there? Did you just like one big experiment and say, "Oh, that's not right," and then wait, I remember interpolation?
Kind of like that, because I had this project that I had to work with, and containers were no go for them. So I started to think about masks, and it just occurred to me that scaling anything that is 1 by anything value gives you anything you want. So I made the smallest possible mask and scaled it, and it worked.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a great idea. I really like it.
There are other default values for images like repeat. I don't know if it works for masks, probably not, but if it works, it would be as a good example of some other effect, like you can have some, I don't know, checking pattern or with mask easily done, also dynamic. Or maybe you can have not only square masks, but some figure and scaled. It could be other. It could also
like a fog of war.
Right.
Masking.
Right. Something like that.
I think that's great. I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing the code and messing with it. I agree, Ed. I liked the accordion sort of drop down, I don't even know what they call that. I think it's an accordion sort of thing where you tap on something and it just kind of drops down. And that would be nice.
I was used it for. I made the table view. I was telling you on the other Corona Geek, and when they press on a row on the table view, the row expands with new content. There is a photo in the row, and we had to clip the photos because it could be visible from underneath the table view. So we clipped it with this method, and when you clip it, the transition goes and it expands smoothly, nicely.
So it expands the whole row?
Yeah.
Nice. So it's basically kind of like almost pushing it. So it's kind of an illusion that the row is expanding. It's actually this dynamic mask that's pushing it and expanding it.
Exactly.
Whew, cool. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun. All right. Well, we'll look forward to your tweets, and guys, definitely go check out spiralcodestudio.com. Sergey's got some great stuff going on over there. Has anybody posted their scores for their 2048? You can't win if you don't participate.
It's on the spot or anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. Put you on the spot. I posted my score, but of course I can't. I'm not going to win. I mean, I can't win. A, I don't. My score's not high enough. And B, it just wouldn't be right. So I think right now Karim is the leader on that, like 32,000 or something.
32 is behind the breaking point. If you got 32, you can get higher score.
What's the highest score you've seen so far on 2048 hex?
I don't know what is right now, but it was way after 500,000.
500,000?
Yes.
Get out. My top end score is like 23. Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? I don't know.
My personal score is near 300 or 200.
I was happy when I got 10,000 that first time. Jeez.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, basically we're running a competition right now for a gift card, a $50 gift card. You go to spiralcodestudio.com, download 2048 hex, play your heart out, and then post your high score to the Corona Geek Facebook wall. And we're going to pick a winner on, I think, November 3rd, I believe. The calendar, that's where the calendar falls. And then we're going to pick a winner, and then we're going to choose a new game to play so that we can all do the high score kind of thing. So if you hadn't played yet, and if you want to participate, definitely get in there and do it because time is running out. Speaking of time running out, I don't think we're going to have enough time to get to some of these other things that we wanted to talk about. So I want to remind everybody that if you're an AT&T customer, you have until the 31st, which is what, like maybe 2 weeks from now, less than, to upgrade your phone plan if you want to double your data plan, basically for the. I don't think, not really for the same amount of money, but you're basically doubling your data plan. So like if you had the if you have the 10 gig plan, which I did, and you go to the 15 gig, then you'll get 30 gig. And so it was a good upgrade for me. My family uses a lot of mobile data, and if you're an existing AT&T customer, though, you have to call them up and say, hey, I want to take advantage of this promotion in order to get that. It's not just automatically added to your bill, because there is some pricing differences and stuff like that. But I thought it was great. I thought it was definitely worth it. So 2 weeks, October 31st, time's running out on that as well. So be sure to go check that out. All right, so we got our Clash of Clans, we got our book updates, we got the MenuMe 2048. What else we got? Anything?
I want to share one more thing, real quick. There's the editors that I'm using, Zero Brain Studio. It got updated with a cool new feature which is called Outline, and it is this panel on the right. And it shows you all the functions that you have in your file, and you can switch with them really quickly.
Oh, I love that.
And the icons show that the local function, global function, or function in a table or something like that, anonymous function. I'm running a slightly modified version of Zero Brain Studio. I have different colors for the icons and different icons for the outline. But if you install it, it's still good. So try it, download it, Zero Brain Studio. Yeah.
Now this slightly modified version, is this something that you wrote the modifications for, or is it something that you got someplace else?
Zero Brain Studio is open sourced, and it's basically just preferences that you can modify on the fly, probably without modifying the source at all. And if somebody wants, I can share it, but the standard version is pretty good as well. So try it out.
Okay, there you go. If you're interested in modding your Zero Brain Studios install, contact Sergey. He can hook you up. I like that a lot. I really enjoy tools that help speed up the workflow, which is one of the reasons why I was attracted to Corona. And that, being able to jump to function calls and stuff like that, I think is fantastic. Can you right-click and jump to things from within your code? Does it do that?
For example?
Yeah, it's a feature that I used to see in Visual Studio a long time ago, where you could, I say, you've got an instance of some function or variable or whatever.
Yeah, it's from the definition or something like that.
Yeah, you click it and you go boom, and it takes you to wherever that's defined in your code. That's a huge time saver, because you're like, what file was that in? Where did it define that?
It's very complex in Lua, because Lua is all dynamic, but it is possible, and it is on the roadmap, but not available at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a good feature. I tend to do that. Not that, but code folding. I do that in Sublime.
So, code folding is supported. Multiple cursors are supported. Finding files, finding projects.
Yeah. But what I'm saying though is that's my solution for being able to find the functions. I fold all the code. And get down to the functions. That way I can go like, okay, what? And I also know that if you use Xcode as your editor, which I think Ed, you used to use Visual Studio, right? Yeah. If you use Xcode, then it gives you the drop down where you can jump to different functions within your.
I use Sublime now.
Are you? You primarily using Sublime?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you had to go back to Visual Studio when you want to do your phone stuff. Your Windows. What's that?
Still install as well. But I'll need the new one, so never mind.
Yeah, right. Get the new one. Get the Express. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for today. We'll go ahead and end the show a few minutes early, but
Managed to get it all in.
we managed to get a lot. Well, no, we didn't get Reskinning, which if you guys haven't had a chance to go see ragdogstudios.com, go check out their stuff. Hopefully, we'll have that as a topic next time. We've kind of tried to get that in a couple the last couple of shows, so I don't know if we're going to try to do it again, but maybe we will. They have some great templates over there, game templates and stuff, and so go check them out. And then the animated score counter, which we were going to do, that's also on the Corona Labs blog over at coronalabs.com/blog, so you can find that over there if you just want to walk through it by yourself. But maybe we'll talk about that next time. I'm not sure. So we'll just see what happens. I know that when the Windows Phone stuff comes out, there's just probably going to be a bunch of questions about it, and we might cover some more of that on the show. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for joining us. Have a great week, and happy coding.
Yeah.
Cheers.